introduction to the book of Zechariah. This is not extensive. It's just one piece of it, so you can understand a little bit of this book. So, to begin with, we see here, right there, at the top, this book is pivotal in our understanding of both apocalyptic literature and eschatology. So, what it means this? It means that this book, on par with the book of Revelation and one par with the book of Daniel. This book has so many things right there that we need them to understand better what it is God's purpose for now and for the end times. I do believe we are now in the end times. I don't know where we are. But why people does not study this book? Why this book is not so popular among either Jewish people or among Christian people yet? I'll tell you why. It's not popular among Jewish people because this book has so many messianic revelations. And those messianic revelations, they just come right there exactly as happened to Jesus Christ of Nazareth. So the Jewish rabbin, they just say, oh, you can understand it, so let it be. And also, the Christian people does not give this book so much attention because this book talks about the restoration of the nation of Israel. There was, about 100 years ago, a movement, worldwide movement among evangelicals, that God had replaced Israel with the church. It's called the theology of replacement. This is not true. What God promised to the church will receive it. Will receive it. But what God promised it to Israel, Israel will receive it, like the church like or not. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Amen. So, because this book points to two different antagonic places, those two main groups that came from Abraham, they do not give this book much attention. But if you want to understand God's purpose, you have to study this book. You have to understand. You can understand what happened then, now, and in the near future. Besides those, let's say, eschatological themes or things that are in the book, we have some gems, some pillars on this book. For example, one of them is where God says, in this book says, those who touch Israel are touching the apple of God's eye. So everybody knows this verse. Yep, it's right there in this book. It's when only just this verse will be enough reason for us to study this book. But there's more. For example, there's another verse that Christians all over the world like to quote. It's another verse. It says, not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. It's right there in the book of Zechariah as well. Other verse that it is in this book is the one who talks about Jerusalem. There is your king. He's coming. A peaceful man is coming, riding a donkey, and so. So what's happened to Jesus is right there in the book of Zechariah. But what they said, they are talking about the house of Israel. And God says, there, that day, I will drop over the house of Israel a spirit. And they shall look to me to whom they trespassed. That's what the verse says. And they shall cry. And they shall cry like a father cries for his primogenitor or for firstborn sons who just died. It's going to happen. So this book has so many nice things that we should make a good to start a little bit of this book. So right here we see that from chapter 1 to chapter 8, this book talks about revelations of the things that once happened then. And from chapter 9 to chapter 14, this book talks about the things that is going to be on the future. The books, when they're talking about on the chapter 1 to 8, talks about it's alluded extensively in the book of Revelation. In the meantime, Zechariah 9:14 is alluded too often in the Gospels. So we see here that Zechariah, they quotes extensively for major 8th century prophets, 8th century before Christ came. So you need to understand, his time was before Christ came, so the time was coming down. And from the 7th centuries as well. So we see here, appears that the computer gave a, but anyway, we see here, there's one thing here that I want to show you. We see here that we see here that this book quotes a lot from other prophets as well. So it shows that the prophets, they used to read and to quote what the previous prophets has talking to them. For example, Azon, do me a favor here. Change the settings in here so that's not going to go out of the screen when I'm talking, please. Okay. So, for example, Daniel, the prophet, he said that he understood by the prophecies of the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah was before Daniel. That after 70 years, the people of Israel would be restored to their land. So it means that the Daniel was looking to what God had spoken through his people, through his previous voices he had before. So Zechariah, he quotes extensively from others prophets that spoke before him. What matters to you, to me? Well, matters a lot. Because, first of all, because the construction of the Bible is something that comes like a interlinked each with each other. As a matter of fact, when you start to study the Bible, you're going to see that the Bible does connect itself, one verse with another one doctrine with another one, from Genesis to Apocalypse. Actually, this is one of the reasons that Christian people do not accept as a Bible those books, so-called apocryphal books that the Roman Catholic them in the Bible. Why? Because they do not connect it to the other books of the Bible. They are like one island right there. Let me give you one example. For example, the God that in the book of Deuteronomy says, you shall not have a magician, or you shall not have those who goes and consult the dead before me. He is not going as, and on one of those so-called apocryphal books, they talking about one lady made one magic potion and give to the person, and this person goes and he are able to kill a dragon and things like that. So those things just does not mean one with the other. I understand what I'm saying? So, but coming back to you and to me here today, what it is important. The point is, they was having the formation of what we call the canon of the scriptures. So they have a part of the Bible, but they do not have the whole Bible. And today, yes, thank God, we do have the whole Bible. And if we go back to what God spoke to them, we can understand much better than they did at their time. Are you with me? So the book of Zechariah, it's a book who talks about a lot of apocalyptic things and so. And as I said, this book is also a very messianic book. And he says that God is the agent of permanent change in human history. So Zechariah, like Isaiah, reveals a suffering Messiah. So it is not by accident that Jerome called Zechariah the most obscure book in the Old Testament. But you need to understand one thing. The Bible says that the disciples, they walked with Jesus in person in this earth for 3.5 years. And there was so many silly questions they used to make to Jesus, silly to you and to me, by the knowledge that we have now. But to them at the time, that wasn't silly. It was they want to know, but they do not know that. And the Bible says that just a short time before his death, Jesus, he blew on them. He said, receive the Holy Ghost. Now you are going to start to understand certain things that you did not understood before. And even Jesus said, there's so many things I have to tell you, but even now you are not prepared to receive it. So the revelations are progressive. And when God shows something to a church, to a person, or to a church, or to a group, if this person, this group, or this nation does not receive it, does not protect it, does not love it, they lose it. Actually, Zechariah, it's called the great prophet of restoration. Mark down there for me. And listen carefully, read my lips now here. Restoration is the biggest doctrine you are going to find in the Bible. Amen. Peter, and his great sermon on the day of the Pentecost, or I believe, I don't know if it was the first sermon, if it was another one some days later, but he said one thing. He said, This man Jesus, Jesus is whom you killed, is the Christ, whom the heavens must retain, or keep him there until the time of restoration of all things. Acts 2 or 3 or something like that. And then he said, in those times, every prophet since Samuel and everyone who prophesied after him, he spoke about those times. So you see that the doctrine of restoration, it is not just just another doctrine in the Bible, but it is a very broad doctrine. It's a very dear to the heart of God. And Zechariah, it is one of the greatest prophets of restoration. He talks about, let me give you another gem of the book of Zechariah now. In 12th chapter, if I'm not wrong, the Bible says that there will be a day when 10 men of different nations, they will come and they will hold right here and a Jew and tell him, hey, we're going to go with you because I know God's with you. That's the restoration. As sitting here, Zechariah 1:1 tells us that he was a priest, according to Ezra 5:1, 6:14, Nehemiah 12:4 to 16, and his father Berechiah is not listed right here. I don't want to go on this right now, but what I want to tell you is many modern scholars deny the unit of the book of Zechariah. And they said the chapters 1 to 8 are so different from chapters 9 to 14. You know, there's a movement among inside the church. They try to break the unit of the books or the date when those books was written. And we have to be careful with this. First of all, yes, there is different things because we was talking about different things. From chapter 1 to 9, he's talking about the situations they had right there. And from chapter 9 to the end of the book, he starts talking about what God's going to do, which is completely different. So we have to be careful. For example, the book of Isaiah. So some scholars, they are so called scholars. To me, I have no respect for them. I don't know if they care for my respect or not, but I don't care for what they say. You know what I mean? So that's why you have to be careful where you are going to study the Bible. Otherwise, one seminary can become a cemetery. Yeah. Don't forget, Harvard used to be a Christian school. See what junk are there nowadays. Duke used to be a Christian school. See what liberal junk come out of there nowadays. So you have to be careful. So sometimes people go to a seminary thinking they are going to a seminary, they are going to a cemetery. So they're going to teach him the books of the Bible, or like Isaiah, they divide Isaiah in 3 and 4 different authors. For example, when Isaiah called Cyrus by name, hundreds of years before him, and those Bible scholars, they say, no! How come he could knew his name that? No. This was not Isaiah. This was a Deutero Isaiah. Was somebody who lived 300 years after him and lived after Cyrus, and then he added these things right there. Do you know what Satan tried to do, right? He tried to destroy your faith for the Word of God. Be careful with that. Very careful. So forget those scholars. If you read the Bible yourself, you will understand. I can come here. I can give you a teaching. I can give you something. But guess what? It's you reading, and the Holy Ghost is talking to you. It's going to give you the best interpretation. Okay. So are you with me here yet? Okay. So we see. Why? What was the reasons they tried to deny the authorship? Or it's because in Matthew 27:9, here Sir Jesus, well, was not Jesus, was the author of the book, gives a quote to Jeremiah, which this quote in reality is from Zechariah 11, chapter 11, verse 12, 13, which I already told you here. So, but we see that they say here, even the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Zechariah is one book. So, and the author of this thing here, he gives several internal, grammatical, and lexical aids, which point to a unit. And he said the use of number 2, the use of vocative, the use of the phrase go to and fro, which is unique to Zechariah, and that goes on. So we understand that the book are unique. But as we was talking here before, that first and second talks about visions that he had from God. And you may tell me, Pastor, I don't understand none of that. And I don't blame you. But if anything in the Bible, if you apply yourself to know and to understand, eventually God will reveal to you. Amen. What God told to Daniel? God said, Daniel, since the moment when you applied your heart to seek me, to understand, I had already sent the angel to tell you what's going on. And see, the angel came and told him, Daniel, that's not for your time. You're gonna sleep with your forefathers, and in the end, you shall rise again to receive your reward. But I'll tell you what is my purpose. I tell you what I will do, and no one can stop me. God told Daniel. And if God told Daniel, God can tell you too. If you want. Maybe you are too busy. Maybe you are so much concerned with your work, with your money. But if you take aside sometimes, and start trying to get closer to God and see what God says, listen to Him, listen to the Holy Ghost, no matter how difficult is the text of the Bible, God will, again, eventually. Why I say eventually? Because it takes some time. Are you understand what I'm saying? It takes some time. Some things I know nowadays that I did not knew 10 years ago. The Bible says to us to know and keep knowing the Word of God. Actually, I remember here another gem from the Book of Zechariah. God says in His book, ask the Lord, and He shall give you a double portion.
Okay.
Another gem. Ask the Lord, and He shall send you the Cerulean rain, which is a rain on its own time. Because there's two types of rains. There's a rain that's out of the time. It's not going to help you nothing. But there's a rain that will come on time of days. Ask God for this rain. What means it to your life? Means to God send you the help that you need when you need it.
Amen.
So let's keep going. So, Pastor, those visions, I don't understand them very well. So there was in the first part of the book 8 visions that God gave him. So let me show you try to show you something here. First version was the 4 horsemen and the promise of the divine restoration. This is what I just read to you today. The portion that we read, he saw 4 horns. Horn in the Bible, it's a symbol of power. And the Bible says that it was 4 horns. 4 is the number of the world. 4 corners of the earth. 4, como você fala cardeal? Pontos cardeais?
Josh. Yeah. Cardio points.
Yeah, 4 cardiac points. So, and that goes on. So 4 is the number of the word. The Bible says there was 4 horns that made the nation walking which they had bound. And then the Bible says God sent 4 persons there. The literal tradition can be 4 captains, can be 4 smiths or whatever. But the idea is that God sent something that was going to infuse a fear on those horns that was withholding the people of God. It's happening in you and my life. Let me tell this to you. Do you remember that there's a time in your life that everything goes well and you are bold? You know, when you're talking about $100,000, that's not much. You can go and you can make. Huh?
I don't remember those times.
Well,
We're prophesying.
well, but listen. There's a time when everything is difficult to you. Do you know what I'm talking about? Every single thing does not come in time. Every single thing does not come in the right place. Everything is difficult. Up to such point when you say, you know what? I better stay inside my home. I'm not going to do nothing. I'm just going to sleep. I myself, many times, I had the times when I just woke up, I just want to go back sleeping again. Because I don't want to face the reality of that day. You know what is it? This is a worldly horn that are trying to beat you down, to make you slow down, to not do what God called you to do. I remember my mentor, Pastor Benz, the devil using his sons and daughters to slow him down. And as a father, he was really concerned with them. And I remember certain times I was there, full of power, full of Holy Ghost, with the hunger for the Word of God, and then he had some problems oh man, how come a man of God with such power, doesn't go all the way down? Now I understand it. So, a vision that they had is that God, there's a time when God sent somebody to help you get out of this. Como você fala estupor?
Stupor.
Yeah? Okay, stupor. Like when you are like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? So, it's happened. Listen to me. A personal level. It's happened at family level. There's a time we're not supposed to write with the family. It's happened at city level. It's happened in nation level as well. That's what's happened with Israel. So, one thing I want to talk to you here before we go further there. When Zechariah started to prophesy, the rebuilding the temple has been stopped for 18 years. And the temple was a place where people used to go and worship God. In other words, the temple was a public altar. God called the nation to build a public altar. It's good to know that nowadays in White House they are having a Bible story at least once a week, something like that. Very good. I'm very pleased. Much better than President Lula there in Brazil having those spiritual guys called up on those demons and make those offerings to demons there in Brazil to help Brazil. Who knows? The Brazilians knows what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
And much better than Obama here called the Muslims on the White House and saying that, oh, the Muslims has been at the core of the development of this nation. Oh my God, give him a break. So, but anyway, nowadays, God's fun. God uses what we don't think He's going to use. Who would say that Trump was going to have a Bible study in the White House? That's good. So coming back here to our thing, it is this nation needs to have a truly worship place. And the Jewish people at the time was called by God to rebuild the altar that has been destroyed. And it applies to you and to me personally. We have to have our personal altar built and we have to use it on a daily basis. Are you understanding so far? So here is the visions. The 8 visions he had. First vision is letter A right here. Can you see it right there? They say 4 horsemen and the promise of divine restoration. You're going to see the chapter 1 verse 7 to 17. And once 8 visions. It is interesting that all those visions, they are kind of the first and the last one, it's a kind of a similar things. 4 horse-drawn chariots traversing the earth in Zechariah 6:8. That was the first and the last vision he saw. There was kind of like an equal them. Can you see this right here? They kind of comes like together. Can you see the red thing come here? The second one, we see here 4 destroying horns and 4 smiths, which I just talked to you right now. And the second is pretty much similar to the G, to the 7th one, the woman in one ephah removed to Babylon, or the woman inside a basket removed to Babylon. This one here is very interesting, because if you read it, and we will go if God let us do that, we're going to see that the Bible talks about, he had a vision. He saw one flying scroll, a big one. I believe, if I'm not wrong, was a 30 feet by 15 feet. And this scroll was a curse that was flying around. And yes, there's a curse. Oh, but you may say, oh, but Jesus did not die, did not set me free from the curse of the cross. Yes, he did, but still flying curses around here in the earth today. As a matter of fact, in the book of Zechariah tells you when there will be no more curses. If you read it. So we have to be careful with curses. So when God's going to destroy those horns who are slow you down, when the curses are hindered, when they are destroyed, when they are nullified. And if you read here in G, you're going to see that God got all the liars and all those who was false witness and put them in one basket and took them to Babylon. So God kind of purged from the midst of his people those who does not want to follow his ways. So both are kind of together. And then you're going to see the 3rd and the 5th. So, yeah, I'm sorry. The 5th is the large flying scroll. And the 3rd is the greatness of Jerusalem. Sorry, I was kind of a little bit confused here. Not confused, I was just going a little bit over. This one here talks about to be a greatness among us. We have to clean up our house. And then the D and E talking about the cleansing of Joshua and the 7 branched lampstand, which it is about the 7th day. So this is one people say it's a Jewish way of saying things. Sometimes they say one thing and then they say another thing parallel again. They repeat again. But I would say this is a God's way to show us some things. So we see we're going to go and we during this start of the book a little bit we're going to go over. So it's those things in here. So we see some prophecies, and here we have the meaning of those visions. So the first one we already talking for this like a three weeks and how the angels on those horses, and it means that God knows what's happening on the earth. Do you remember last time when I was preaching here, we're talking about Google, that you download one email attachment and you think you are the only one who knows it, but Google knows it already because it's right there. And I was surprised at this, some things from years ago. Other day, casually, I was looking to my file on Google, it was right there, and I said, how come? I did not put it here. So, yes, they know. So God knows what's going on here too. So it's not just Google. Google knows what's going on with you, and God knows what's going on with you and what's going on with Google as well. And then vision B, we're talking about those 4 horns and 4 craftsmen that I talked to you about what it is. Pastor, why God speaks this way? I talked to you 3 times already, I believe in last month. And if you do not learn by now, it's going to be difficult to you to learn. But I'll say once again, God has what the theologians call dark speaking. And you need to understand one thing. People are sometimes scared to sleep on darkness. You do not know. Right now you are okay, you are so confident because the grace of God it is upon you. If God takes off this grace, you would be scared to death of every single thing. And that's the way he was. I had to convince him that God was sovereign. And he thought, Pastor, you do not know what I see. I said, man, I know what to see. So as a matter of fact, it was me who got used to cast out those demons on inside you. So I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, God has what we call dark speaking. In darkness, listen to me this. It is not something wrong with God. The Bible says that to God, the day, the light or darkness is the same thing. As a matter of fact, I remember here now, when God was about to do covenant with Abraham, God told Abraham, kill these animals. And Abraham killed them and put them on a split open. And the people, that's the way they used to make a covenant those days. And both parts would walk in between those carcasses. But God was about to do something with Abraham. God only was going to walk on those over those carcasses. That which means the covenant that God was about to make with Abraham would come to pass no matter what, because it was based not upon Abraham but upon God. But the point is, the Bible says Abraham put those carcasses there, and those predatory birds tried to come in, and he was kind of putting them away until the evening came. And there was a darkness, the Bible says. And Abraham was kind of like a stupor, like I'm going to sleep. And then, when it was the darkness, God came. We do not know why God makes sometimes you sleep to talk to you when you are asleep instead of talking to you when you are awake. I have no answer for you. But one thing I can tell you for sure. It's better God talk to you when you are sleeping than do not talk to you at all.
Amen.
Oh. Huh? So we have what we call God dark speaking. So that's what happened here on those B. C as well, the measure of Jerusalem. And God will restore his people to the promised land and renew and expand the covenant. Jehovah himself will build them and protect them as in the Exodus experience. So we see that God was with a line measuring the city and see if everybody was okay. On those days, now when you're going to build up something, you just go to a Home Depot or Lowe's, right? You buy a level, and you come and put the level on here in the wall, so you know the wall is in the level. But in those days, they used to have one line with one weight down there, then you come and put it here, and you would see if it was on level or not. That's what God had here. He was checking if his people was on the level. So, are you bending towards something wrong? Or God has a level there checking on you. So I hope that after a little bit, the book of Zechariah will not be those scary thing to you, okay? So, and then the vision D, we were preaching about this some weeks ago. Joshua was the high priest, was forgiven and restored. Satan was right there to oppose him, and God rebuked Satan, and God promised some things to Joshua. And then we see that lampstand that shows, God's power, not human power, will reestablish the covenant. In the case here, the rebuild the temple and so on. So the author here says God uses spirit empowered human, for example, like he used Joshua and Zerubbabel. In the next vision, we see the flying scroll. It's a symbol of God's judgment on covenant breaking among his people. So let me tell you one thing to you here. Put attention in what I'm going to tell you. Read my lips. The message we preach, the gospel message, it's a good news. What is the good news? The good news is that God loves you and God saved you if you want to be saved. But not to be saved. You're not going to be perfect. But because you are saved, you will have the deeds of a saved person. So if you do not have and consistently basis the behavior, the deeds of a saved person, chances are that you are not saved yet. Who are saved, Pastor? I don't know. God only knows. But we see the fruits. For example, you go to an orange tree. You know it is orange tree. Why? Because you see orange right there. It's not apple tree. You don't see apple there. You don't see a lemon there, so you know it's not a lemon tree. But if you see a lemon there, you know it's a lemon tree. It's not apple tree. It's not orange tree. Do you know what I'm talking about? So no matter your creed, no matter what your faith declaration, but what matters is how you live. So that's the gospel message. And yes, once a while, once a month, or even 4 weeks in a whole in a month, even 2 months in a whole, even 3 months in a whole, a pastor can preach how champion you are. Yes, he can preach how good you are, but guess what? He has to come down and he has to talking about your sins. He has to talking about your behavior, and he has talking about God's rules for our lives. Otherwise, no. So, which one was it? The lampstand, right? Yes. And then you see the fly scroll. which is symbol of God's judgment on covenant breaking among His people, which will result in destruction of the violators. Let me tell this to you. The books on heaven, it is something much more deep than you can think of. As I said before, some people here on earth are concerned with Google, and you should not be concerned with Google. You should be concerned with your books in heaven. Because I promise you, there is things that Google doesn't know about you that it is right there in the books of heaven. Good and bad. And the point is, when you start, I don't have time here. I'm not here tonight talking about books and heaven. I already preached a little bit about this here. The truth is, the books of heaven is not just going to affect you on the great day of judgment. No, it's going to, but it's not just that. Those books of in heaven, they affect how you live here today. They affect how your son, how your daughter is going to live here. They affect how your offspring, your granddaughter, your grandson is going to live in long after you are gone. You have no idea. I could talk in here another 10 hours tonight. And somebody say, oh, thanks that you are not going through, right? So you are now going to understand how deep and how important are those books. And to the good things that are in the books of heaven about your life, you need to open the books. Somebody needs to open the book for you. But for those bad things, don't worry about. There's a flying book with curses. There are books with curses flying around. And they are trying to find a place to land. Just be careful. But anyway. And we see the weakness in basket. And we see that God was taking and removing the human arrogance in idolatry to a far, far place. And the last one, the 4 chariots pulled by colored horses. As I said, this is a parallel to the first one. And God is present and sovereign in all the world. So we see by those things in here that God is much more concerned with the things going on than we think of it. So going back to us here, we are living, I don't know how long it's going to last. But in the United States today, the way you are living in here, you may tell me, Pastor, I don't have my new car yet. I don't have my 5,000 square feet house yet. I may don't have it, I may don't have that, but I'm going to tell you this. Compared to the rest of the world nowadays, you have the best of best life possible on earth today. You have the best resources today. What are you doing with this? God's going to call you, and God's going to require from you what you are doing with this. So we're not going to be here forever. I know many of you are young. I would say younger here is how young? That's it, right? Javier, that's it. So
You're the only young one here.
yeah.
Yeah, you're the.
What I meant, Javier.
So when we are young, we are full of dreams, full of hopes, and we want to conquer some things to our lives. But when you are at 60 plus, you are running down, the mountain. You're not here. You are running down fast, and faster. Yours concerning, it's kind of a little bit different. We start to understand that you're not going to be here forever. So, let's say, Lord, I need this new Jerusalem, Lord. When you cut the grass in your yard, and it is the happening not of the day, not of the week, but the happening of the month, So something is not so good, So that's the way you are going to be if God bless you and you live to old age. So we start saying, Lord, I want to go to the New Jerusalem.
Amazing.
And that's where we go. So, in the light of the Book of Zechariah, remember that you're not going to be here forever. Remember to pray for Jerusalem, because there is the place where Christ is going to reign. There is the place that God chosen to be His habitat. There is the place where God chooses to dwell there. Either you like or you don't. God don't care if you like or don't. If you don't want, that's up to you. But you better start liking if you want to go there. Now, so you're going to be so shocked. And it shows us something that I want you to understand. Nowadays, the nations are starting to gather against Israel. One of those reasons I was rooting for Trump to win the presidency is because the way the previous administration, the previous presidency here in this country was dealing, the way they was dealing with Israel. It was going to bring disaster to Israel and disaster to this country as well. So some things changed on the United Nations, like the U.S. ambassador nowadays to the United Nations was this former, I believe, North Carolina governor. What her name is?
Nikki Haley.
What?
Nikki Haley.
Yeah. So, and her first day there, she went there. She told, "Hey, I'm here, folks, to tell you guys that the feast, the party is gone. Now you're going to start to behave yourself, or we are out of this." So, they were full of lies, full of crap against Israel. So you need to understand. Thank God those things get better, but it's a matter of time when it's going to get worse again. And you, as a Christian, you need to understand This is the spirit of Antichrist. So don't be fooled. When you're gonna vote, vote accordingly to the word of God. And don't forget, Israel is the thermometer of the world. Either Washington like or not, either Tehran like or not, either Moscow like or not, either European Union like or not, they are not the main actors. No, they are not. They would like to be, but they are not. So, understand it. You need to understand it. You need to understand the position of Israel on the end times. And you will not be surprised with the happenings in there. Let's stand up.